Hare Krishna. So all ready for the 5th chapter. So now karma is repeating itself today. So let's see what's in progress. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Let's start with the Mangalacharna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopeku Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanaya Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vatsadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today all set for the chapter 4, right? So we will start our journey on the chapter 5 after the 4th one. So before that 4th, we will have a recap. So what is it? So chapter 5, we are talking about for the Karma Yoga. So we did Karma Yoga also again in 3rd chapter, right? So what is this? This is talking about Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. So let's see what is this about. I always keep telling you that Arjuna comes up with a lot of questions, right? So here also the cause for this chapter is because Arjuna, as usual, is confused on what it is. And his understanding is, he understands renunciation only in one fashion. He doesn't understand renunciation. Krishna is talking about the fruits. So he feels, according to him, renunciation means inertia. So basically, he will not do any work, right? He will give up everything and run away. So back to square one. Now Arjuna is telling that, okay, I must go, right? I should go to the forest. So he starts all over again. So let's see what is it he has in the beginning of the first verse. Hare Krishna. Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasa Karmane Kanirshna Unaryogacha Chashashi Yakshreyaetayor Eka Tanme Bruhi Sunichitam. Hare Krishna.
Arjuna said, "Oh Pranaya, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?"
Hare Krishna. So now he is asking, first you're telling me, renounce work. And again, you're telling work with devotion. So he's feeling these two are contradictory. Right? So when it comes to Krishna, you see a lot of things are contradictory, right? Seemingly contradictory. They are apparent contradictions, but they are not actually so. Why? Even classic examples we will see that you say that Krishna is here, okay, and as well as he's in Golok. How is it possible? Because if I am here, I can't be elsewhere, right? But how is all this possible? These are all what are called apparent contradictions, but in reality, they are different, right? But here it's a little more challenging for Arjuna, because for him and for all of us, right, renunciation means what? Giving up on what we do. That's the only way of renouncing it. Okay, and he is feeling that it's contradictory because he's telling work with devotion. How can you renounce work and then again work with devotion? It's too confusing, right? So then he's telling, you kindly tell me definitely which is more beneficial, because both the options are there, basically, which is called, Karma Yoga, that is working in Krishna conscious, and Karma Sannyas. So giving up on work and, actually what you can do. So now what is he telling? So first let's read and hear what is Krishna's misunderstanding, and then we will dive to the new chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna's misunderstanding.
Arjuna's misunderstanding.
Arjuna's misunderstandings. Devotional service better than dry mental speculation. Second chapter, text 11 to 30. Knowledge of soul described by Krishna. Text 31 to 37. Prescribed duty explained. Text 42 to 45. Entanglement of soul due to fruitive activities. Text 46 to 53, explaining the process of disentanglement by devotional service. Third chapter, text 17 to 18, explain no duty for a person in knowledge. Chapter 4, text 33, explained all kinds of sacrificial work accumulates in knowledge. And in last verse of the fourth chapter, Krishna again told Arjuna to get up and fight, thus confusing Arjuna, renounce or work. So renounce or fight.
Hare Krishna. So what is the confusion? So the confusion starts for Arjuna in second chapter itself, where all his doubts of the first chapter is answered by Krishna in the second chapter, right? And specifically from the text 11 to 30, he is talking about the various qualities and characteristics of the soul, right? And between 31 to 37, he says, what are the prescribed duties, right? What should be the duty of the person? And 42 to 45, what are the, what can be the actually entanglements, right? For fruitive activity, what are the activities is what is being explained. And how do you get entangled is, how do you come out of this, entanglement, which means devotional service is the only solution, which is explained in 46 to 53. So now this is second chapter. So this is pretty clear. But in spite of that, Krishna gets telling and reinforcing it so well. Arjuna gets confused between Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So the third chapter comes up, which says very clearly, what does he say? There is no duty for a person in knowledge, right? So for a person who's very self-realized, there is absolutely no duty, right? Which is what he was telling. Though after that, he did explain two examples of Janaka and himself, but broadly, what does he say? He says that there is no duty. For someone who's self-realized, he need not follow any duty, right? So now, chapter 4, what happens? Now, chapter 4, again in the verse 33, says all sacrifices, right? We already said, what do you mean by sacrifice? Anything done for the happiness for Krishna is sacrifice, and all this culminates to knowledge, right? So eventually he says that all this, Krishna is the only Yagna Purusha. So all sacrifices, the purposes, they all accumulate into knowledge. And this is what he's concluding in verse, he's telling midway in verse 4. And finally, at the end, Krishna is telling, okay, enough. I've been explaining. I think I have to tell him more straight, right? Because Krishna is trying to be very diplomatic. If you notice, even at the end of the chapter 2, he explains about Siddhartha Muni, trying to explain what he should do, how he should walk, how he should sit and all. But after all this, he just puts a full stop in chapter 4 by telling, okay, Arjuna, that's enough. Now get up and fight, right? That's it. So now he's very confused, Arjuna, right? Just like us, right? After just before the exam, we get so confused what we should do. And sometimes we don't even know what portion is there, right? It's even more confusing. So thus, Arjuna, he is now going to go. This is what leads to the 5th chapter. And he asks Krishna, now you tell me which of the two is more superior. So this is what he's asking. Now in the verse 2, Krishna is going to clarify the doubt. So first one starts with a question and 2 starts with an answer. Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sanyaso Karma Yogacha Nichreyasa Karaubo Tayostu Karma Sanyasa Karma Yogo Vichinyate. Hare Krishna.
The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So he says both are good. So if you're actually asking, is a sannyasi technically who is a very genuine sannyasi? Here he is talking about not the pretender, not the Mrityachara, right? He's talking about somebody who genuinely wants to think of Krishna and, give up everything and go. Is he correct? He's telling, yes, he's also correct, right? he is telling that person is also perfect. But what is not correct is that, what is actual solution of the two? He says that devotional service is better. He's making this how? See, somebody, we always feel, right? Somebody who's giving up wearing this kind of bright, colorful clothes and just going and preaching and thinking of Krishna, isn't that great? Right? To our minds, we feel that, right? But now Krishna is telling that doing devotional service in work is better. So let's see what is it he's got in store, right? So he must have a reason, right? So now let's also try and understand this very nice story of NRGA. Okay, there is one king called NRGA. Okay, and we are going to connect this to the 4th chapter. 4th chapter, what did we say? We spoke about a lot of people who pray demigods, right? And why do they pray demigods? For getting quick results. So now this is a very beautiful story of a king. And every time this comes up, right? If you do a lot of pious activities, right, without Krishna in mind, right, is it good or bad? Now I'm going to leave this chat open for you, and y'all are going to tell me, this team is going to tell me whether it's correct or whether it's not correct. See, Krishna is not there in mind, but then we are going to do a lot of devotional activities around it. So is it right or is it not right? So you got to, tell me this. Chat is open, right? I think chat is open. So without Krishna, you do pious activities. Is that right or not? You can just type a yes or a no, all of y'all. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll continue the story. So what is, yes, okay, that's nice. Thank you, iPhone. Okay, yes. So whether Krishna is there or not, pious activities is good, right? So now let's hear from, from him what is happening. So he is a great king who used to give lots of cows, to the Brahmins. Those days, Brahmins actually used to live with one piece of land and one cow, and based on that, their agriculture and that they used to survive. That was the prime job, right? So what happened is he used to give away a lot. Not only him, the concept of birthdays are very different these days and there. So birthday party means, if it's my birthday, what happens is I have to pay, right? I get a lot of gifts, right? So what happens nowadays is I receive gifts. I'm at the receiving end. Treat is a different story, but then I receive gifts. But those days, it's not like that. When it's a birthday, you give away. It's because the charity started then. So where is this concept? So even Nanda Maharaj, during Krishna's birthday, every year, used to give 1 lakh cows, right? So he used to do this during Krishna's birthday, and he did it for the happiness of Krishna and God. They used to have focus on that. Now, NRGA, okay, he's a great king. Likewise, he was giving away cows, but the only difference is he had himself in mind. He always felt, he was not proud, but he always felt that he actually has to do sacrifices and charity because he was fond of doing them. Right? So we already had a small introduction of this mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? So he, though appears to be in the mode of goodness, what happens is he's having a little bit of passion because he wants his name and fame here, right? So he had a little bit of centric focus. Now, more than that, what is actually coming out here is when he gave, and these are not just the cows, the cows are all jeweled and completely decorated. What happens to these cows is one cow in this, found its way back to his group of cows. So this story is in Srimad Bhagavatam. So now it goes back and joins the entire group of this rest of the donating cows. So invariably, without knowing, he goes ahead and gives away the cow which he already donated to another Brahmana. Now, both these Brahmins start fighting. The first one says it's my cow, and the second one says it's his cow. Now, you all tell me, right, whose cow this actually belongs to, A, and B, right? What, so what is it he has to do? Maybe that's a tough question. So you can tell whom does it belong to, the first or the second, right? So these two have gone into Panchayat, right? Now, NRGA, this king is very smart, right? He has lots of cows. So immediately says, for anybody, whoever is going through this problem, I am going to now give you all many cows. I'm going to replace the existing cow with multiple cows. And not just one. He says, I'll give so much A, B, C, D, and he has a plan B. So now today, in today's world, we all have a plan B, right? Okay, fine. You are working. You are not having a chance to go abroad. Don't worry. I will give you an increment and a promotion, right? These kind of discussions happen in office. Not too sure if it happens in college and school level because nobody has given me an option in college. They will tell, okay, listen, that's it. And you go back, right? You all have the experience because in schools and colleges, we don't get to have options, right? Yeah, thanks. Hare Krishna. Yes. So what is happening? So he is now stuck with the same fact that I'm just having the cow and nothing is. So what happens is this Brahmana gets so upset and angry and that they curse him. And those days the Brahmins were so powerful. Now, is cursing the right thing or the wrong thing is a different debate, which we will see in the further sections. But Brahmins had a lot of these Vedic knowledge and Vedic shlokas, and they could actually, do a lot of curses and but they can't reverse it back. So what do? They actually curse him, telling that you therefore will be going through a lot of suffering and you will be this huge lizard. So the very purpose of doing sacrifice and charity to go to Swargalok or to get moksha. Just imagine he just made one mistake unknowingly, right? And by doing that, what happened? He had to suffer as a huge lizard for a very long time. And this was a curse, right? So now what happened and how did he get saved? So now finally after this only he understood and he apologized that he made a big mistake and the whole thing was this meme. So now what is happening is when you do something on your own, the benefits come to you, which is fine, which is great, right? As you all said, doing good qualities and on your own is good. So therefore you go to Swargaloka. But if there is one mistake on any of this, but in any of the charity, sacrifice, or even in Devata worship, you have no choice but you get cursed. Now, do we really are aiming in getting credits? We are not keen in credits and debits. This is like sponsorship. So in the college, right, if you're getting an admission and, they will tell you your education is free, your food is free, your stay is free, your bus is free, your books are free. Would that be a great option? Or, that's option A. Or would an option be telling that, okay, you work for every bahar, I give you 50 rupees and your fees is 100 rupees. Something like this. Will an option A be more better or B? Right? Now you can tell option A or option B. Because if it is me, I would choose an option A because, I am at peace, right? And at education time, I don't have anything else. I don't have to work. I don't have to keep calculating how much I have made or how much extra I make a little bit so that I can go and eat a little thing. Because I'm given all the luxuries, right? And that's very important. Just imagine so calm, so peaceful, so happy I will be, right? To focus on my 3-4 years of education without any responsibility. That is going to Goloka Vrindavan, right? So you take credits plus or minus, you will be having the tension of either you're going to Swargaloka or Narakaloka. You don't take both, don't take positive credits and negative, which is called akarma, and therefore you have an easy way route to Goloka Vrindavan. So thankfully, whatever said and done, he had his pious. So therefore, Krishna does not forget all that. And when his children were playing, they came here and the ball fell there. So immediately, he sees this huge lizard, they get scared and they run to Krishna, and Krishna comes and the moment he picks it, he gets completely liberated. So that's one blessing which happens, because the moment he realized that he was doing it for himself, he completely surrendered to Krishna. And even at that moment, Krishna doesn't say, okay, better suffer, you need it. No, he comes and rescues him, right? So this is what is the greatness of becoming a devotee at any point in time. Hare Krishna. So first, let's properly understand renunciation. What does renunciation actually mean? Prapaichi kataya budhya hari sambandhi vastuno mamukno biyu parityago vairagya palgu katyate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. When persons eager to achieve liberation renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking them to be material, their renunciation is called incomplete. Hare Krishna.
It very clearly says, Hare Krishna, he says every person who is very eager to achieve liberation, right? So that is moksha, we already saw, right? So they renounce things related to Supreme God, thinking them, like many of them sometimes think that anything which we do, for example, even praying God, even doing japa. One classic example is we are all told to do japa, right? So he says, I want to renunciate and therefore I don't want to do japa also, right? Will that make renunciation complete? No, it won't. Why? Because their activities, certain activities should never be given up, right? And let's see why. And subsequent chapters will explain to you, verses will explain to you why you should not renunciate everything. But now let's move on to what is karma yoga or karma sannyasa. Jayo sa nitya sannyase yonadveno na kaiknati nirdvando hi mahabaho sukha bandhat pramudhyate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, liberated from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty Arjuna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what is he saying? One who neither hates or desires. So basically he doesn't have duality. What do you mean by duality? Duality is hatred, love, right? So let's take a classic example. And we did have a question about relationship breakup. How does it work? So what happens in a relationship breakup? You have some kind of feeling, right? You have hatred, right? Or you have love extremely, or you have something called the desire of the person not focusing on you. So all these things come because of duality. So you think of anything, heat, cold, right? We also saw this in chapter 2, right? He says matra spashtastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino anityas tamsriga shashvata bharata. What is he saying? Heat or cold, if you start having an impact, then you will get affected. You don't worry too much about all these dualities in life, right? And these are very important. Just like how in an extremely cold climate also people do take bath, right? And at least now we have heaters, geysers. Those days, they used to take bath in cold water. Yes, you may tell that they used to heat it in fire, but many won't do that, right? They just used to, even now they do that, right? They just take bath early morning in cold water. Likewise, even today, women have the, even in hot summer, you are scorching heat, you actually go and cook in the kitchen. And just imagine, and that to the time you generally tend to cook is 12 in the afternoon. So it's even more hot, right? So people do tolerate. So that is what Krishna keeps telling. So here, what is he telling? That the one who's actually achieved the state, who does not have an impact on these dualities, right? Whether it's heat or cold, right? Can easily come out of all these material bondages. And this person need not go to Vaikuntha or Goloka. He will eventually go. But even here, he is somebody who is liberated. So that is what he is preaching to Arjuna. So what is he trying to actually conclude? Renounce the results, not the action. For example, renunciation for a student is, I don't want to study. Without studying also, I will reach great heights. No, that's not the solution. The solution is you renounce not the studying, but you will study, you will give your best, but what will you renounce? The result. Whatever result comes after you give your best, because that is not within the area. In management, you learn something called the two things: circle of control and circle of influence. What is the circle of influence? Something where whatever is bothering you. There are two circles, just in simple language. There is one circle where everything will bother you. Your teacher bothers you, your principals are. That's a huge circle. But what is a circle which you can control? Is a very small circle, a tiny little circle in the middle, right? So that is the circle which you can focus on. So studying is the only area you can focus. Within 24 hours, how much time I can dedicate to each subject and how can I take it to the next level. But what result comes is not something which you can control. That is what Krishna is telling. Renounce results, not the action itself, right? So all you have to do is don't worry about the action. You focus on your action. You can only run your action. But what you can renounce is whatever result comes out of this, don't bother about that. That you can completely give up, is what he is saying. So let's go to the next. So this is another beautiful story of a person. He's called his name. He's very special person because he actually has the record of the highest japas. Right, in a day he would probably be chanting the entire day. About more than 3 lakh times he would mention Krishna's name. Now, what is the specialty of him? And that's why he was called Namacharya. And when did he come? He came 500 years back, and he was actually a Muslim. He was a Musalman, and he was, during those days, you know how it is, right? So that was 500 years back. When I mentioned, that was a Muslim rule, right? We had someone called Chand Ghazi who was a general, and Hussein who was running the peace. So what was happening then is that they could not tolerate a Muslim getting converted, and on top of it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's complete preaching of the name of the Krishna and Rama's name is something which they wanted to put an end. So that is called Sankirtan. So so they did many ways. They used to send, they used to have him hit in so many marketplaces. They used to abuse him. They literally killed him, everything, but they didn't succeed. So they thought the best solution is to send a prostitute. because they felt that anything becomes violence, right, and becomes a protest. So they sent this prostitute who used to come to him. And those days, they had a concept that, if a lady comes and requests, they can't bluntly tell no for most of it. And normally there's very unlikely for these kind of requests to come from women. So what happens is, this is what shows a pure devotee, right? So he says, I haven't finished my rounds. Can you go and come back tomorrow? I will, and definitely satisfy your wish. So she goes and comes back the next day. He tells the same, right? And he's doing japa, and she gets bugged, again goes and comes the next day. She says, how many days you want me to come? He says, no, today definitely, please sit next to me. I will complete the japa. Just hear me out and don't leave. So she's very confident. Okay, he's now finally agreed and he's given me a place to sit. And he goes on completing the japa. This is the power of japa. You don't necessarily have to be doing it, but still if you hear it, and this hearing is not just applicable to you, if you all have pets in the house or whatever in the house gets liberated. That is why they say even a single devotee such as you all in the house is good to liberate a lot of sleeping souls in the house. Why? Because the Nama Japa automatically does this work. How can this do? Simple. You have fever, right? Even when you're sleeping, your mom comes and puts that tablet in your mouth, right? Now you don't even remember that you had this tablet or an injection or whatever. But does it work in your body? Yes, it does, right? Whether you like or whether you don't like, whether it's bitter or whatever, it does have an impact in you. Same is Nama Japa. So it is so powerful that it automatically starts working on your body, and that purification, Krishna literally starts cleaning you, all the anarthas over the period. He takes a broomstick and cleans. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says it as Cheto Darpana Marjanam, which means he cleans the heart of the impurities. So finally what happens? Finally on the third day when she hears this, she gets influenced and she literally falls on his feet and says that, and she's one of the devotees now. So can you imagine all these great people? What we'll do is we'll run away, and it's better for us to run away. As I said, our senses are like monkey. You try to tame it, the monkey will dominate and will take control of the intelligence. So for people like us who are at the beginning stage, who are all neophytes, the best thing we should do is don't even attempt to do any reformation. First, try to learn ourselves to be stronger in the faith. Shraddha. Hare Krishna. So what is it we are talking about? The next one we'll do. Hare Krishna. Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padma patrami vambasha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what are we saying? We keep telling that, how is this possible, right? See, every time you see, many things seemingly is not possible, but then actually it is happening, right? You see, if you drop a leaf or a flower in the water, automatically it sinks, it floats is a different story. But water does have an impact, right? It's on its skin. But whereas in a lotus, if you see, lotus is so beautiful and the leaves have this coating that the water does not stick to it, right? So same way, what he is saying is, when you perform your duty, as I told, the results, if you're not attached, and decide that, okay, Krishna, I give the result, whatever happens, it gives a great relief to you, one, but the actual end result is what? It is not affected by sinful results. For example, you saw that king here, right? So he wanted to take credits. Now, had he given it to Krishna, and for all of us who wrote yes, right? Because even I thought, what's wrong, right? Doing a pious activity is great. But by doing a pious activity, you get credits. But the wrong activity, actually, you get mistakes also. Example, you do charity and you call some relatives in the house. You have 25 relatives who anticipate and make food. Now land up the 30 relative, what will happen? Let's assume they will share, but then even after that, if you have 5 relatives who are not having food, what will be the reaction? They get so angry and they can't, they will either externally shout or diplomatically curse you within your heart, right? So now suppose it is Krishna Prasad, what happens? Whatever said and done, it goes to Krishna. Right? So we have that shield, we have that protection, right? So we have a bodyguard because Krishna is personally taking care of us. So that is very important here in this loka. So that is what we are talking about. So we'll just see what is the power of the great devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, there is no volume.
The audio, okay. There's not much of audio, but thank you. So why am I saying this is Krishna conscious inertia? Is it without any action? No. So there is absolutely nothing which stops you from enjoying. People, are so glorified. They just, enjoy every bit of it, right? So nobody is silent. They don't sacrifice anything. They are having so much fun because here there is no limit, because Krishna is limitless and our happiness is also limitless. There is absolutely no conditioning on the level of happiness, right? Hare Krishna. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, he sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Outcast. Hare Krishna.
So what are they telling? See, now for all those who said, we spoke, right? Dogs are bad, the cats are not sentimentally bad, rabbits are jumping. So now what is Krishna telling? He says, forget about Krishna thinking of them as equal. Even a Dhira, we read about Siddharthi Muni in chapter 2, right? And here we are talking about Dhira, which means somebody who is very elevated, treats everyone equal. He does not see any difference between what are the things he's talking about in Brahmana. For them, that is also same. A cow is supposed to be in the mode of goodness and very calm. That is also same. Elephant also is same for him. Dog. And what is a dog eater? Dog eater literally does not mean somebody who's eating a dog. It means typically some category who's much below the 4 varnas, right? They are also called chandalas because they are coming, they do not follow anything at all, right? So they do not say any difference. Today, in fact, I wanted to tell you all those who have pets, please bring your pets. So we will know, we will do that tomorrow because tomorrow is a Saturday. Get your pets and let's keep the video on. You don't have to show me your face, but show your pets. So we will know that all these pets are also having the same Paramatma in the heart, right? Does that sound good? So for all those who have pets, you can just say yes, if it's fine for you all. So you can just show your pet on the video and you will know that all those pets are also listening to this Maha Mantra and they are also benefiting. And many times you don't understand the benefit because you don't feel it yourself. Hare Krishna. Yehi samsparshaija bhoga dukkha yone evate adi antavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What is he telling? Why the intelligent does not take part in the source of misery? So let's see. Can you see all this? This is a very beautiful light bird. And what is happening to this light bird? What do you call this? Moth, right? So it gets attracted to light and that becomes its disaster, right? It falls in the heat and it dies. So this is because of the attraction of one of its sense. Now you see the same concepts are applicable to a lot. What about the fish? The fish gets entangled, right? How do they catch a fish? They catch a fish with another fish, which means sense of food. The fish gets attracted by its prey, right? They use the small fish as a bait and they catch a bigger fish. So what is its control? It is actually getting tempted by food. Now same with the bee. Bee wants to go and have the honey and the flower. We read that flowers have life. They will close and therefore they lose out on that. So that's the disadvantage with the lotus, right? And now what is happening with the elephant? Now elephant is something which is also very weird. How do they trap a huge elephant? Is because they will send a she elephant. They'll keep it in the trap and the he elephant will chase it. Right. So what is happening? The sex level indulgence span for the elephant is very high, and that drops him as an addiction. So what are they telling? So if you are addicted or if you give way for any of these senses, and what will happen? The chances of your destruction is very common. Now, for all the animals, one sense dominates. What is the difference for us? For us, all our senses are dominating. Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, everything. Everything dominates. So what is the risk for us? We are twice at risk than the animal. And also, animals come through the natural chain of evolution. We read, right, 84 lakh species. Now, none of the animals have a law or point that, they have to, do this much karma, credit or whatever. Karma does not apply to them. They come under the natural process of evolution. So karma is applicable only for whom? For us. So that is what matters. So let's see what is it Krishna is trying to. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sukridam sarvabhutanam nyatva mam shantim rachati. Hare Krishna. So Bhoktaram yajna tapasam, it's a very beautiful shloka, and anybody who would like to learn this shloka, it's really good. Bhoktaram. So what are he saying? All sacrifices, right? Tapasam means what? All sacrifices. All yagnas and tapasas, ultimately who's the beneficiary? So all austerities and these sacrifices, ultimate beneficiary is our Krishna, right? So Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, right? So for all lokas, he is the Mahesha, he is the supreme lord for all lokas, and for all the, also for the demigods, for all the planets, everywhere, he is the ultimate beneficiary, right? Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. So, and what is a Sukridam? What does Sukridam mean? Sukridam means friend. Friend also what friend? Best friend. So he is the best friend, and he's a beneficiary, and he's a well-wisher, right? For all the living, living entities. Living entities means, I just told you, it applies to all dogs, animals, all of them. He is the best friend, right? So it is not just for you or me, but it's a best friend for everybody, right? And by somebody who's following this, what happens? This is the ultimate peace formula. He reaches his ultimate satisfaction, and he is very peaceful. So many were asking, right? How do I get peace? Look at those cowherd boys, how peaceful they are. They are fighting with Krishna. They are playing with Krishna. They're eating out of their plate. Krishna is also doing all this. This is the beauty of Krishna. So what are they saying? Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram shukridim sarva bhutanam nyatva mam shantim rachati. So that is the speciality. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So he is telling how it can be resolved, right? So that is how it is. So this brings an end because he gave a peace formula finally, which is what we were looking for. So the very quick summary of that is Sannyasa or Karma Yoga. He says both are good, but working in Krishna conscience is far better because it is easier to follow and to sustain, right? So that is what he explains. And the start is 5.1, where Arjuna is questioning, and the answer is given by Krishna in 5.2 to 5.6. What is the final solution? He says Nishkama Karma. So what is he telling? Do work free from bondage, which means that you actually do whatever duty you have to and give the results to Krishna, right? Kurvan apina lipyate. You just give all the fruits and you only focus on your duty. And finally, what is it? It says liberation by the focusing on the Supreme. So in this way, what happens? You get liberated by focusing on the Supreme, right? So Nyatva Mam Shantam Rachati. You will get your complete happiness, is what Krishna is giving guarantee. So for all of you who said, how do I, get peace of mind? How do I get Shanti? For all of them, the only solution is Krishna is automatically giving that the peace formula is, completely surrender on to me, and accept me, then he considers us as a friend, just as we consider him, because he is the only friend and a well-wisher for us. Even our best friend, any relationship, may be genuine, honest, no doubt. But is that relationship going to be with us all the time? At least death will separate it, right? But Krishna is someone who is going to be with us not only here, birth after birth, even when we take the form of a worm, even in the stool, because he is entering along with us as Paramatma. Why and what is the speciality? We want to enjoy here. So he's telling this is the world, enjoy. But will you leave a small child, a 2-year-old child, to be on their own? Like, will you say that the child wants to go buy a chocolate? Oh, my child is so learned. Okay, I'll give money. Oh, child, you go and buy. Will you say that if you have a little sister or brother? Yes or no? No, right? So you will appear as if you're sending the person, but you will tag along, right? Yeah. So Krishna is also doing the same. He is coming along, but he's very silent because we don't want him to act. So he's there trying to take care and silently be a witness, and he's still there whenever you want him, right? He's readily there. So this gives us a clarity of what needs to be done clearly in 5th chapter. And the end of 5th chapter, what does he introduce? They introduce a small line called the Ashtanga Yoga. Because now Krishna has very clearly told, boss, the best thing is what? Best thing is to work in Krishna conscious. But we will not like that. Now we will always want to know what is the other side, right? The other side of the grass is always green, right? So what is it he didn't explain? Renunciation. We would like to know the processes and practices of what is called renunciation. And this is what is the beginning and the entire chapter of the chapter 6, which is called the Ashtanga Yoga or the Jnana Yoga, which means Krishna is actually talking about the process of renunciation. So for all of us who are here, if we feel working in devotion is not a great idea and we would love to try, renunciation, then the session is tomorrow. So let's be tuned for tomorrow's session, right? Meanwhile, I want you all to type your questions. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.